Weeks ago, the Embracer CEO came out and said that he was disappointed with the backlash the Saints Row reboot faced. We found out the sales dropped a staggering 80% in the UK only a week after launching, and now we know the general sales numbers overall for the game, and they are terrible. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and to the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So let's start off with this Twinfinite article. It says Saints Row sold 1 million copies, update in November for bug fixes and improvements for quality of life. It says today Volition and Deep Silver announced their plans for the Saints Row reboot that was released back in August. First of all, we have heard that the game has sold over 1 million copies and that the developers are in it for the long run in terms of support. Now, some of you might be sitting there saying to yourself, wow, 1 million copies, that's actually pretty good, but it isn't at all. We are talking about Volition and Deep Silver here, okay? We are talking about a AAA video game release. And only 1 million copies in a month and a half, that is abysmal for them. To compare some other game numbers, let's look at Saints Row 4. Released in 2013, Saints Row 4 passes 1 million sales during its first week on sale. We're not talking a month or half a year, we're talking about only a week back in 2013. The Saints Row reboot should have doubled, tripled that in only a week, never mind a month and a half. Let's also look at another game that launched this year, Elden Ring. It sold over 13.4 million copies in just over a month. So the more numbers you compare, the worse that Saints Row Reboot is looking. What makes this situation even more funny is the fact that Deadly Steph, the community manager, said, oh, only trolls hate this game. It sold so well, and the dislike numbers on YouTube are fake and don't represent the real fan base. But it doesn't look like many people showed up to buy your game. They should have stuck with what the franchise previously was. Edgy comedy, hilarious main characters, a good story, great game mechanics, and they didn't. They went in a completely different direction. Now, this update also does talk about the fact that they are putting out bug fixes and stability upgrades, and they're really focused on the future of this game, and they're going to be putting a lot of time and effort to it, which I don't know why they really want to be praised. They should have been doing that anyway. People are spending $60 on a AAA release. You shouldn't just release it and then forget about it. I mean, I'm not going to praise you for doing the bare minimum, but they talk about quality of life, and then they bring up DLC. Because of course they want you to spend more money on this broken, boring game. It says this year we'll see the release of more free cosmetic packs with further DLC of that kind that will be provided to expansion pass owners, and of course you have to buy the expansion pass. It will be sold separately starting later this month, and there is going to be new paid story content, so they expect you to swipe your credit card for, more DLC, which is probably content that was in the base game that they just decided to rip out so that they could put, another price tag on it, which is very unfortunate. It also says that we'll get even bigger quality of life updates, more free cosmetic packs, and other things the developers aren't ready to announce yet, and I wouldn't hold my breath for any big and exciting announcements there. So no, the future is not looking very positive and bright for the Saints Row reboot. I mean, the scores are still awful on Metacritic, and I did mention this at the beginning of the video, but I had talked about this when it released. The physical sales dropped 80% in the UK only a week after launching. This game didn't survive. I mean, only a week after launch, people were already sick and tired of this game. I know so many people were posting on social media, talking about how they were trying to get refunds, and unfortunately, even the customer service wasn't really all that helpful. They weren't refunding people, they weren't responding to tickets. This game was just a disaster all around. And going on over to Metacritic, the scores have not gone up. The PC version is sitting at a 2.5. PlayStation 4 is sitting at a 2.5. The lowest scores on the Xbox One at a 1.5. So there are no ratings here over a 3.0. People are just very underwhelmed with this title, with the community manager and the way that this individual has spoken to consumers. I mean, I don't think that there's actually been any real positivity surrounding this game, which is very unfortunate. I've loved Saints Row in the past. I was initially hopeful that this game would come out and actually be good. It wouldn't be a massive disaster, but it's even worse than we could have imagined. So reading just a couple of user reviews, there's lots of zeros, lots of ones here. There are a few tens. It does seem like people are trying to make the score go up, but it's not really working for them. A 0, the game is a buggy mess, the graphics look very bad, the story is awful, the characters are generic and cringe, overall terrible experience. Volition, where do we begin? You ignored fan feedback for years telling us, we were getting exactly what we wanted. Then you dissed the fans on Twitter, calling us haters for not liking whatever this was. Haters gonna hate? Well, we took it personally. Now the game is a buggy, glitchy, unplayable mess that appeals to no one, and you all have yourselves to blame. Haters are gonna hate, right? Well, haters are gonna rate too, and it is true. They came into this saying we are confident in our product, haters are gonna hate, we're gonna create what we think is going to sell, and it didn't end up selling. I mean, clearly it hasn't worked out for them. The developers have publicly stated Saints Row 4 was a mistake, and they are going to fix that mistake by making the most hyper-woke Gen Z game possible. The game is a soulless, pure, cringe, unplayable mess. Anything even remotely fun has been removed from the game. This is what happens when developers hate themselves and hate their customers. There are still a lot of people that are very hopeful for the future, thinking maybe this will make them change their minds. Maybe they'll make another Saints Row game in a couple of years. They'll go back to the roots of this franchise. They'll listen to consumers. They will actually put out a product that will make people care about this franchise again. I unfortunately have zero hope in Volition at this point, though. Maybe they'll change our minds in the future. Maybe they'll put out another great product. But in my mind, Saints Row is just kind of dead at this point. I'll play Saints Row 1, 2, and 3 if I want great experiences. I mean, I didn't even hate Saints Row 4. It was very different than the other games, but it was still a memorable experience. But I will not be supporting Saints Row Reboot unless it is in a bargain bin and I can buy it for less than $5. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.